This family justify. Today's story is ready. Enjoy watching.
The email subject line said, 25th anniversary gala black tie required. No, we miss you. No warmth. Just a dress code. My name is Ava Mercer. I'm 29. And at my parents' anniversary party in a country club ballroom outside Beverly Hills, my mother looked me dead in the eye, slid my Navy gift box aside, and called me a freeloader. You didn't have to bring anything, Vanessa said loud enough to travel. Then my father Daniel leaned back and added, we don't need your cheap gift. Take it and get out. 60 guests, crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, and every face turned toward me. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I set the box back in front of them and said, you have no idea what you're turning down. If this story's worth hearing, hit like and subscribe only if you genuinely want to. And comment where you're watching from and what time it is for you. That word freeloader didn't start in that ballroom. It had been living in my house for years, even when no one said it out loud. Growing up, my family loved calling me the responsible one. It sounded like praise until you realized what it meant. Ethan was the story, the athlete, the future, the one people asked about. I was the background, the one who refilled drinks, the one who remembered birthdays, the one who got labeled easy because I didn't ask for much. At dinner, my father would talk about Ethan's next level. My mother would nod like it was a plan already signed. If someone asked about me, Vanessa would smile and say Ava helps out. She's good with people. She'll be fine. She'll be fine. That was the sentence they used to avoid seeing me. By senior year, I had a real plan. Not a fantasy, a plan. I loved coffee, food, the way a small cafe could make a hard day feel lighter. I brought it up one night at the table holding an acceptance packet like it was fragile. I got into a hospitality and culinary management program, I said. It's solid. I have a scholarship. I just need help closing the gap. My father barely looked at the papers. We've already talked about money, Daniel said. Anything extra goes into Ethan's future. Vanessa didn't even pretend to consider it. You're going to school to make coffee and pancakes, she said like it was a joke. People pay for law school, med school, real degrees. What you want is cute. Cute. That word did what a slap does without leaving a mark. I tried again. Loans, jobs, a plan to handle it without draining them. Daniel folded my acceptance letter and handed it back like it was junk mail. We invest where it counts, he said. You'll be fine. You're always fine. A year later, they turned that line into a deadline. After dinner, Vanessa set her glass down and spoke like she was reading a policy. We've given you time, she said. It's not healthy for an adult to live at home without a plan. You need to move out by the end of the month. Independent. She said it like she invented the concept. I had a few $100s, a beat-up suitcase, a used laptop with a cracked corner. That was my safety net. The night before I left, I heard them in the kitchen, low voices calm, like this was just housekeeping. She'll land on her feet, Vanessa said. Daniel gave a short laugh. Ava's too proud to come back, he said. She'll figure it out, or she won't. Either way, I'm not running a charity. That was the first time I realized something simple. They weren't afraid I'd fail. They were comfortable with the idea. And that's why the word freeloader hit so hard in that ballroom. Because it wasn't just an insult. It was their favorite story about me. Austin did not care that I arrived with a suitcase and a cracked laptop. The bus dropped me near South Congress before sunrise. No one was waiting. I rented a room in a shared apartment, thin walls, loud pipes, an oven that never shut right. But it was mine. Mornings I opened at a downtown coffee shop. Afternoons class for hospitality and culinary management. Nights I waited tables off the highway. I counted tips on my mattress like they were a life raft. I was always one surprise away from panic. Some nights I stared at my phone and thought, call home. Then I heard my father, I'm not running a charity. So I kept the screen face down. The only place my brain went quiet was the school kitchen lab. Late night stainless steel counters, flour on my sleeves. I baked when I was exhausted, cinnamon rolls, sticky buns, anything that made the room smell like possibility. One brutal week, I brought a tray of cinnamon rolls to my coffee shop. If they don't sell, staff can eat them, I told my manager. He shrugged. We're not paying for ingredients, but sure. By 10 a.m., they were gone. The next day, people came back asking for them. That's how Marianne Caldwell noticed. Late 50s, sharp eyes, the kind of confidence that doesn't need volume. She came in twice a week for black coffee and left a cash tip, never chatting. One slow afternoon, she pointed at the pastry case. Who keeps making those rolls? I do, I said. School recipes, extras. Hospitality program, she asked. And 3 jobs, I admitted. I own 3 breakfast spots, she said. Sit with me on your break. We sat near the window. She opened a notebook. You show up early, she said. You move like you're in charge, and people would pay real money for what you're baking. Then she asked, do you want to spend the next 10 years taking orders, or do you want to run a place with your name on the door? Nobody in my family had ever asked me that like it was real. She slid a folder across the table, numbers, projections, a simple offer. $20,000, she said, startup capital, a small percentage back, and I guide you through leases, suppliers, hiring. I swallowed. This feels like charity. Marianne tapped the folder once. This is not charity. This is an investment. If you fail, I lose money, she added. If you succeed, we both win. A week later, I signed. We found a narrow brick front space not far from Lady Bird Lake. 6 tables, secondhand mugs, a menu I printed on cheap paper. The sign over the door said, Harborlight Coffee. The first month, I memorized every face that walked in, terrified they wouldn't come back. Then they did. People waited outside before we opened. They asked for the usual like we'd earned history. A local review hit. Weekend lines appeared. I hired help. I stopped checking my bank app every hour. A year later, Marianne tilted her head. Second location. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. 2 more shops followed. Then we shipped beans nationwide. Harborlight got louder, busier, more public, so I got quieter. No selfies, no hometown tags. The brand was the story, not me. Back home, my parents kept selling the same version through old neighbors. I was stubborn. I refused help. I was struggling. They said that while I negotiated supplier contracts and signed leases, one night after closing, I sat in my first shop office with deposit slips spread out under my laptop glow. On the wall, a map with pins showed where we'd shipped coffee. I stared at the coastline and remembered my father's favorite half-joke. I'll retire somewhere warm, near the water. For the first time, I realized if I wanted that kind of house, I didn't have to marry into it. I could buy it. And when the email invitation landed in my inbox formal, cold-timed like a performance, I didn't answer with a speech. I answered with a plan, a folder, and a navy blue box. Walking into that ballroom felt like stepping into a script everyone else had rehearsed. Crystal chandeliers, white linen, soft music trying to make everything feel harmless. All around me, phone screens blinked on and off like fireflies. I carried the navy box with both hands, not because it was heavy, because it was final. My parents sat at the head table, framed like a portrait. Vanessa looked polished. Daniel looked pleased. Ethan lounged 2 chairs down, already smirking. He saw me first. Wow, he muttered. You clean up. Still pouring coffee somewhere. I gave him a small smile. Something like that. I didn't come to trade lines with my brother. I came to set one truth down where they couldn't dodge it. Happy anniversary, I said, and placed the box in front of my parents. Vanessa's eyes dropped to it, then flicked to the nearest guests. She made sure she had an audience. Oh, Ava, she said sweet and loud. You really didn't have to bring anything. She turned slightly like she was offering a harmless joke. She's never been great with money, Vanessa added, but at least she tried. A few people laughed politely, the kind of laugh that says, thank God it isn't me. Daniel didn't bother pretending. He slid the box away with 2 fingers. We don't need your cheap gift, he said. Take it and get out before you embarrass yourself. The room went quiet in a way no music could cover. I heard a glass touch a plate. I felt eyes land on me one by one like weight. For a second, I was 19 again, standing in a kitchen with an acceptance letter being told I'd be fine. Then it passed. I picked the box up, set it right back in front of them, and met Daniel's stare. You have no idea what you're turning down, I said. Vanessa's smile tightened. Ava, she hissed. Still smiling for the room, don't make a scene. I'm not here for a scene, I said. I'm here for clarity. I lifted the lid. Dark velvet, a ring of keys catching chandelier light, a folded deed beneath them. Vanessa's breath caught. Daniel blinked like his brain couldn't decide if it was real. Ethan leaned forward. Is this a joke? It's not, I said. Vanessa recovered first because she always did. She let out a thin laugh. She's exaggerating, she said quickly, looking around. Ava can barely stand on her own. I nodded once. Right. If I were the freeloader you've been describing, this wouldn't exist. Then I reached into my clutch and pulled out a slim folder. No dramatic flourish, no raised voice. I set it on the table and slid out the first page, a screenshot of an email thread. The subject line was plain and sharp. "Ava, please keep this quiet." Vanessa's eyes snapped to it. Her face shifted in a way she couldn't control. I kept my voice steady. "This is from you." I turned the page. Another screenshot. "She's still struggling. We've tried to help. She won't listen." Another page. "We just want her to come home and be reasonable." Each one was a version of me I didn't recognize, except I did, because it was the version they'd been selling for years. Ethan scoffed. "That's private." "So was my life," I said without looking at him. "And you've been narrating it anyway." Daniel's jaw tightened. He leaned forward, suddenly softer. "Let's talk about this later," he said, privately. I met his eyes. "You don't get to humiliate me in public," I said, "and then negotiate in private once you smell value." Vanessa reached toward the keys. I moved the box a few inches back. Small motion, loud boundary. Her voice dropped urgent now. "Ava," she whispered, "give us the house. We're your parents." I closed the lid. "You had 10 years to act like it," I said quietly. Around us, people weren't laughing anymore. They weren't even pretending. They were searching screens, whispering, connecting dots I never asked them to connect. I picked up the navy box and the folder. Then I turned and walked away past the chandeliers, past the linen, past the soft music. For once I wasn't leaving because they pushed me out. I was leaving because I chose it. LS stacked up in a column, Vanessa, Daniel, Ethan, one after another like repetition could change reality. Texts came next, angry first, then panicked, then careful. "How could you do that to us? You embarrassed us in front of everyone. Call me now. We need to talk about the house." I didn't answer. I showered. I hung my dress up like it belonged to someone else. I set the navy box on the desk, still closed, still quiet. Then I placed my phone face down and let it buzz until it stopped. The next morning, I flew back to Austin alone. Back at Harborlight, I did what I always do when my stomach is tight. I worked. I checked inventory. I walked the floor. I listened to the espresso machine hiss like a steady metronome. 3 days later, I answered one call. Just one. Vanessa's voice was smaller than I remembered, but it still carried the same instinct to perform. "Ava," she said, "I'm sorry for how it looked." "How it looked," I repeated. A pause. "I didn't mean for it to get out of hand," she said. "People are calling. They're asking questions. Your father." "Say what you're actually sorry for," I told her. She inhaled, shaky. "I'm sorry you felt hurt." It wasn't an apology. It was a cover. Daniel's voice cut in on speaker, low and strained. "Ava, let's be practical," he said. "We overreacted. We can work something out." There it was, not regret, negotiation. "I'm not doing deals with my parents," I said. "I'm setting terms." Vanessa's tone sharpened again. "You can't just cut us off. We're your family." "I didn't cut you off," I said. "You let go 10 years ago." Silence. Then Ethan suddenly loud. "So what you're punishing us because you got lucky." I kept my voice even. "I'm not punishing anyone," I said. "I'm protecting what I built." I reached for my laptop, opened a blank document, and typed while they listened. "Here's what happens next," I said. "1, you stop telling stories about me, not to neighbors, not to church friends, not online. 2, you don't ask me for money, property, or favors, not directly, not through Ethan. 3, if we talk, it's private and it's honest. No audience." Vanessa's voice dropped to a whisper. "And the house? The house is not part of this conversation," I said. "It's not leverage. It's not bait. It's not yours." Daniel exhaled like he'd been hit. "You're really doing this." "Yes," I said, "and it's going to be in writing." I hit save. Then I added one more line for myself, more than them. "If you break these terms, I disappear again." I ended the call without saying goodbye. A week after the gala, the navy box still sat in my office at Harborlight. Closed, quiet, like a door I didn't know anyone. I kept thinking about the moment Vanessa reached for those keys, not because I wanted to hurt her, because I finally understood something. My parents didn't want me. They wanted access. So I made a choice that felt clean. I flew to Miami Beach alone, walked through the little house again, and listened to the water knock against the dock. It was beautiful. It was also built on the idea that if I gave them a dream, they might treat me like a daughter. That wasn't a foundation. That was a bribe. I sold the house. Not out of spite, out of clarity. And I used that money to start the Harborlight Scholarship Fund for women going into hospitality and culinary programs who hear the same lines I heard. Be realistic, that's cute. You'll be fine. Now, once a year, someone like 19-year-old me gets an email that says, "You're funded. No begging, no humiliation, just a path forward." Vanessa tried to call again after she heard. She left a voicemail that sounded soft, almost gentle. "I just want my daughter back," she said. I didn't delete it. I didn't replay it either, because the truth was simple. No speeches, just terms. If they ever want a relationship with me, it will be small and honest. Not a performance, not a transaction, not a rewrite. And if they can't do that, then they don't get to hold a place in my life just because we share a last name. Lessons from this story. Boundaries. When I slid the box back and closed the lid, I proved access is earned, never assumed. Accountability. The email screenshots weren't drama. They were a record of who said what and when. Self-respect. Selling the house and funding scholarships turned my pain into policy and my future into mine. If this hit close to home, hit like and subscribe only if you genuinely want to. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you.